It's a classic weekend coming up at Newmarket. Kipco 2000 Guineas Day on Saturday, the first classic of the season on the Rolling Mile at Newmarket. I'm Ben Linfoot, delighted to be joined by Kieran Clark from Timeform and Matt Brocklebank from Sporting Life to go through the 2000 Guineas, and we've got plenty of video clues, pace maps, ratings, etc. to talk your way through the race. Newmarket 3:35, the Guineas, Kieran, fantastic race. And we could have a potential superstar in there.
I think we do, Scoop, yeah. Absolute belter of a race. Smallest field since Churchill won this 2017. Second smallest field since the turn of the century. Ed O'Brien's only runner, so it really goes to show how highly regarded that City of Troy is. And, you know, he looked an absolute superstar at 2, didn't he? Ryan Moore said he couldn't pull him up when he won on debut, and he nearly had to jump off him. It said it scared him a bit, and then obviously what he did at both Newmarket tracks when he won the Superlative, and then he came on and won the Dewhurst. Best 2-year-old I've seen for a long time, since that fella beginning with F. You know, what did he go on to do? Plenty, didn't he?
Well, the F word has been bandied about by Coolmore themselves, hasn't it? Howard Frankel described us after he won the Dewhurst last season. And let's have a look at the Timeform ratings and just see how far clear City of Troy is. There you go, Kieran. 137p. Yeah,
he's already produced a rating good enough to win an average Guineas. Now, I think this is quite a good Guineas. We've got plenty to get stuck into, and I think this could end up quite strong form for various reasons, both a mile, maybe shorter, and maybe the middle distances as well. He's definitely the one to beat. You've got notable speech in there who's never ran on turf, 3 wins on the all-weather in the spring and through the winter, and he's sort of come out of nowhere, but he's already got a higher rating than Group 1 winner Rezalian. And then you've got a little bit of a gap there to Hartem, the Craven winner, who's been behind City of Troy a couple of times. And a couple further down, likes of Task Force, who step up in trip, and Ghostwriter, who might not be quick enough, even though he's won over a mile at 2. I think there's plenty to get stuck into here. I think it's a really good Guineas.
Right then, let's get stuck into it. First video clue. And we've got to start with City of Troy, haven't we? Winning the Dewhurst Stakes last season. It was a performance, Kieran, that it was powerful, wasn't it? And sort of hints at what he could do over a mile on this same track.
Yeah, I was at York this day and I watched it in the press room, and a couple of my press room colleagues turned around and said that's the best horse we've seen for a long time. Now, I love what he does at the finish. He just keeps galloping. He just doesn't stop. This is 7. He's definitely going to stay a mile. I think he'll definitely stay at least a mile and a quarter. That's Ellie Arby there in second, and he just keeps going. That's the Gosden horse in third, isn't it? That is it Ibn Shaddad or something along those lines. It's rare you see a 2-year-old as good as him. I love the way he runs up that hill. It's going to take a real good one to stop him, and you think that there's only one way of riding him because he gets into such a good rhythm up front. They're going to have to... I mean, how do you get him beat, Matt?
Yeah, difficult business, isn't it? Obviously, in that race as well, you had Hartem in 5th and Iberian 6th as well. The form just, it really does stack up, and I think you've probably nailed it there in terms of to get this horse beat. I think you're going to have to find a horse that's a strong stayer that's going to be able to go with him. Obviously, whatever beats him is going to have improved at least 7 to 10 pounds over the winter. So I'm struggling to see one of these speedier, more sprint-based horses come in and doing for a turn of foot. I think that's the issue you've got if you're really looking to take this horse on, is that obviously they might use this race. He's not going to be absolutely 100%, I don't think. They're going to use this as a stepping stone towards... Obviously, they'll be absolutely mortified if City of Troy's beaten. I'm not going to say they'll be delighted if he's 4th. But I think this is a stepping stone towards the Derby for him. He's a tremendous horse. He's a really, really exciting prospect. It is a good Guineas, but he stands out a mile in this race. I'm really struggling to get him beaten. And when you say, how do you get him beat? I've gone a bit blank, clearly.
Just in a word, and I mean a word, are you taking him on?
No. I do have an each-way alternative.
You can explain why later.
No, not...
Okay.
I wouldn't lay him at 8 to 11, no chance.
No, I wouldn't either. Let's look at the opposition, Matt. And Richard Hannon, as he so often is, poses the biggest threat in the Guineas. And he's got 2 strings to his bow, but the main string is Rezalian, who's a Group 1 winner.
Yeah, it's a fascinating dynamic, this, isn't it? Because obviously, I think you've got a fairly clear case of a horse in Rosalian who shows a huge amount at home. They've always had a very high opinion of him. Even early on, before his debut, they were talking about this horse. When he won his debut, they were already talking about classics, guineas. So they've been working back. In the end, he had 4 starts as a 2-year-old. Quite an aggressive campaign for a horse of Hannon's. And I know after he got beat, really disappointing on the soft ground in the Champagne at Doncaster, behind Iberian.
Put a line through that. He got no cover at all in a small
it was
field.
a muddling race, wasn't
He had excuses, and Hannon was absolutely mortified. And I know they were in 2 minds of whether to even run him again. They in the end, they must have been absolutely thrilled with his performance out in the Jean-Luc Lagardère in France over Arc Weekend. He put up a tremendous performance that day. I am really surprised that the notable speech, the Godolphin horse, is higher on Timeform ratings, higher than Rosalian, because he's got the Group 1 form in the book already. A really quality colt. I would imagine of all of these here, he's going to be your out-and-out miler. So
St James's Palace looks ideal for him.
Yeah, round the bend,
so,
definitely.
yeah, he's got pace, this horse, hasn't he? And compare that to Hartem, who is a really likeable, solid horse. He won the Vintage Stakes, didn't he, from Iberian?
Second in the superlative to.
He had plenty of runs. Yeah, he had
Where
even
did
more
that
runs.
come from in the Craven? Just time, do you think?
Well, the race fell apart,
Yeah,
didn't it?
it was a bad craving, I think. The
Yeah,
two
so the
favourites
French horse
disappointed, didn't they?
was bitterly disappointing. He didn't settle and didn't seem to go on the ground or the track. The French horse was disappointing. Aidan O'Brien's horse seemingly badly in need of a run.
Yeah.
And the Godolphin horse wasn't quite up to it. So Hartem stepped forward. He came there, put his hand up and has done it. And if you look at Craven winners in recent seasons, they tend to sort of hit the board, don't they, in the Guineas? I wouldn't be surprised if Hartem's in the first 4. Not sure anyone's paying down to 4th, but I could see him finishing 4th. That's an awkward thing, because obviously in my position I've got to try and look for an each way angle against an odds-on shot, because if the odds-on favourite doesn't quite perform or doesn't badly need the run, we've seen a lot of O'Brien's 3-year-olds needing a run this spring.
What was the O'Brien 2-year-old that came in at 3-year-old that couldn't be beaten and he got stuffed when?
Air Force Blue.
That's the one. Yeah. I don't think City tries another one of him.
I don't.
That's the problem, isn't it? There have been examples, and we've seen even not just O'Brien's, but we've seen the likes of Pinatubo and horses who are champion 2-year-olds.
Yeah, St Nicholas Abbey.
It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be champion 3-year-olds, and yet in the same breath, I'm really struggling to see a horse beating City of Troy, just because the excitement around him. It's hard not to be caught up in it. I try my best not to, obviously, because we have to approach this as an individual. But it wasn't just a flash in the pan, was it? At 2,
he did it 3 times.
He did it 3 times. He did it progressively, and he did it on this track. Very hard to beat. Stall 2. Ryan Moore, no doubt, edging towards that far side.
Well, talking of how it might pan out,
tactically, yeah.
Let's have a look at the pace map, because it might just help us with tactics and how this race might be run. Obviously, we do think City of Troy is gonna bang out and try and make this a test under Ryan Moore. A possible pace against him would be Night Raider and Ghost Rider, who are drawn by him as well.
Yeah, Stall's down the centre, so they're not going to make a beeline for either the rails, you wouldn't have thought. Interesting, there is a potential tailwind for the weekend, so it might be harder for those horses held up to get involved. And it is quite interesting tactically, because you think Ghostwriter, he probably is a middle distance horse. I don't think he'll be running at a mile again after this. He's probably going to go up in trip. He's going to have to be ridden prominently.
That's
because
a good draw for him.
He's just going to track, yeah.
Yeah, cards on the table. I've backed Ghostwriter anti-post 20-1. He's only a bit shorter now, so that's why I'm sort of struggling to double down. I probably wouldn't recommend backing him at 14, 16's sort of borderline. I think the problem is the market's got it about right. Ghostwriter, it is a good draw for him, I think, next to City of Troy, because as Kieran says, I see him as a really strong 10 furlong horse. He's a bit of a real lengthening horse, a good strong galloping horse. He's not going to quicken quite as much as Rosalian, possibly not even as quick as Night Raider. I think we'll mention him again in a second. But yeah, Ghostwriter is a horse I've got a huge amount of time for. Another one that's unbeaten, that we don't quite know where the ceiling of his ability lies. Proven over the course and distance. I think he's perfect on good ground that we're going to be looking at this weekend. Just
touching on tactics as well, with Ali Anabi's probably going to be ridden prominently like he was in the Dewhurst. And then you've got Rosalian, Task Force, Notable Speech, all come from off the pace. speedier types. Now, if that tailwind is in effect, it could be quite hard to get involved from off the pace. So it might be that you want to be up on the speed, which might favour those proven stayers.
Well, let's have a look at our next video clue, which is notable speech. And in the Godolphin Blue here, Kieran, and just explain why this horse is second in the Timeform ratings.
Yeah, so this is on his last start. He's won at Kempton all 3 starts, and his horse with a brilliant turn of foot we've already discussed. Now, this was run at a crawl, and he shows an amazing turn of speed to come and lead under just hands and heels riding as well. You see there, he quickens almost last to first within less than a furlong. And the reason why he's second highest rated is because we're able to handicap the races and give horses extra judged on their sectional times, and the sectional finishing speed he did there was unbelievable, which meant he got a £10 further upgrade on the bare form, which means he's ended up higher than Rosalien. Now, it is a totally different test to running around these small field races at Kempton. He should handle the turf. Do you think he'll handle the track? He looked well balanced enough to me. But
question mark, isn't it? When you're coming from Kempton,
know. Yeah, exactly.
All weather track to the undulations of the Rowley Mile, it isn't unknown.
If you wanted to play him each way, he could be anything. He's still got a bit to prove, even with his rating. I think it's a totally different test. This
next video clue is Ghostwriter in last season's Royal Lodge Stakes at Newmarket. You can see him in the Jeff Smith colours, light blue and purple towards the stand side, and he tanks through this, Matt.
Yeah, I love him. I do like the way he went about his business here on the track. As you can see, he does just sort of, he's a proper galloper. He just lengthens. He's a very well bred horse. He's obviously by Invincible Spirit. On the dam side, you have actually got a 2,000 guineas winner. Zaphonic is on the dam side of the pedigree. The dam Moor side was daughter of Champs-Élysées, so again that's injecting quite a lot of stamina. So he's entered in the Derby. He's quoted for the Derby. I do see him developing into a middle distance horse. Now, whether in an average guineas, a Royal Lodge winner proven at the track might just get away with it, and his obvious class could see him through in a guineas before stepping up in distance. But if he's going to end up being a Dante Derby horse, then he might struggle to cope with a horse like City of Troy, who was such a sensational 2-year-old. But again, he's an unbeaten horse. Clive Cox tends not to sort of call his ducks swans, and he's quietly confident about this horse. I see sort of Ghostwriter goes about his business a little bit like Cox himself, doesn't he? He's not too flashy. I could see him just gradually going through the season and building towards something big. I hope he goes well. Hope he goes close. I'm backed him each way. I think he's got a really good draw. Lots to like about Ghostwriter. I'm finding it hard to sort of like talk him down, but he might have to be second or third best to City of Troy.
They used to say fourth in a Guineas, best child for the Derby, but I hope he finishes third for you, Matt.
That would be nice. Yeah, we'll take Ghostwriter finishing second or third, I think.
Yeah, he's a very nice horse. And another one bred for the job, you would think, is Task Force. Let's have a look at him in the Juddmonte Silks pink cap, stand side, running on in the middle part behind Van Dijk. This is good form, Kieran.
It is, yeah. He'd won the 2-year-old trophy at Ripon prior to this, and he's a really strong traveller. He's a well-balanced horse as well to have run well at both Ripon and the Rowley Mile. The undulations won't be a problem. He bumped into a bit of a freak in Van Dijk in the middle park. He's had a breathing operation on the back of this, and he's also had a racecourse gallop at Newmarket earlier in the year, so you think he'd be ready to go. The Beckett yard isn't exactly firing on all cylinders, what we come to expect, but it has been such a wet spring that he probably hasn't been firing out his A-listers yet. So it's interesting. Up to a mile, he's bred to win a Guineas. He's by Frankel out of Special Duty, who obviously was awarded both Guineas. I'll never forget the interview on Channel 4 when Special Duty was awarded the Guineas. Worth a watch on YouTube if it's still about. But yeah, I think he'll definitely stay. Tactics will be another thing. He's a bit of a hold-up horse, so he might just need the pace to collapse a bit, I think.
He's a proper miler. He's not disgraced there, is he? Bumping into a top-quality horse in Van Dijk, top-quality sprinter who had won the Prix Morny. Obviously, that form might work out quite well. Obviously, he beat Ramatuelle in the Prix Morny, so if Task Force delivers on Saturday, then expect her odds to shorten again on Sunday. But yeah, he's got a bit of a question mark over him, hasn't he, Task Force? But again, he's another one. There are fascinating rivals against City of Troy, which makes it such an appealing race. It's not
great
just
Guineas,
it's not just Aidan with a standout horse and maybe the obvious danger,
Jersey horses or something,
or the obvious dangers being their stablemates.
Yeah.
O'Brien comes with one, and he's taking on some really nice horses.
Right, with that in mind, let's wrap it up. Give us your best each way alternative to City of Troy and any other horse that you think deserves a mention.
Ali Anabi, each way, 18-1, second in the Dewhurst when he was ridden prominently. He somehow managed to win the Somerville Tattersall Stakes. I've butchered that, but we'll roll with it. On his penultimate start at 2, he'll definitely stay a mile. I'm hoping to ride him nice and prominently like they did in that Dewhurst, and he might just be able to sneak into a place. I think that Owen Burrows is great off these horses off a layoff. Yard really going places, had an excellent season last year, and I think he's the one that is overpriced. Quick mention for Inisherin. If you want an overpriced one in the Guineas, look no further than Kevin Ryan, who's had Gloria Weights and High Royal run massive races at huge prices. He was quite impressive at Newcastle, but this is just a total different grade, isn't it?
Yeah, big step up for him. I'll go Ghostwriter each way. I hope he can stay on the coattails of City of Troy. He is drawn next door to him. Richard Kingscote will have to have his wits about him. I hope he can stick with him. The other one that we really do have to mention is Knight Raider. Carl Burke, obviously, superb trainer, but has really hit the ground running this spring. This horse, a complete unknown. He's won 2 7-furlong races at Southall. Now steps onto the grass for the first time. Now, Burke, interestingly, gave him a gallop at the Craven meeting just a couple of weeks ago, and he said that was his first gallop on turf. So obviously a horse that's coming across from the all-weather onto turf for the first time in public, but he has had a public gallop and he worked well. I know Ed Chemley said on the podcast that he got a little bit warm and worked up beforehand, so that would be on your mind. But you look at the work itself. He ran alongside Flight Plan, a Group 2 winner for Burke, an older horse last season who's entered in the lock-in.
Same owners, isn't it?
He worked beautifully with him. He handled the dip. He handled Newmarket. So the evidence is there that we've seen him on the track. So Knight Raider has to be worth a mention. And having won at Southall, and Burke came out and said, we're off for the Guineas. He was about 8-10-1, and he's double that now. He's eased out to 14-16-1. So Knight Raider's definitely worth a mention. Stole one as well over towards that far side. He's got a top man on board in Danny Tudhope. Just question marks whether he might end up being more of a Commonwealth Cup horse, a top class sprinter.
So the words out my mouth. I don't think he'll stay, but I think he might win that.
It's a fascinating 2,000 Guineas. Just before we go, gents, 30 seconds each on an alternative bet this weekend from anywhere you like. Kieran, you first.
Yeah, Palace House on that Guineas card. I think Carl Burke's got one here in Beautiful Diamond, who was a really good 2-year-old. She was a really impressive winner first time out. She was ran really well in both the Queen Mary and the Lowther. Then she beat the boys up at Ayr in a listed race at the Ayr Gold Cup meeting. She beat a horse of Andrew Balding's called Purasangwe, who came out and won the... he won at York.
Won the other day, didn't he?
He won at York and he was third in the race at Ascot the other day. Yeah, it's rock solid form. The race he won at York, he beat a squire of David O'Meara's that won the Greenham. So Beautiful Diamond's form stacks up really well. She's really speedy. She'll be ridden up with the pace, and you've got Mick Bahi and Twilight Calls who like to come from off the pace, but I don't think they're going to catch her, and I think 3s is a very fair price. Get stuck into her.
Matt,
quite like her.
Bet elsewhere?
Yeah, quite like her as well. 4.45 for me, the sprint handicap for 3-year-olds. I do like this race. I'm not quite away from he's fairly short, this Eye of Dubai, but I think he's worth a bet. It's Sean and John Quinn's horse, the Quinn's horse.
Well.
They've been running well. He's had a couple of starts already this spring. Won at Catterick, beat a subsequent dual winner, a filly of Adrian Keaton.
That's a nice horse, Flying Finn, yeah.
Yeah, he turned her away really impressively, obviously giving her the allowance, the fillies race. The fillies weight allowance, and then he went to a handicap at the Craven meeting, and he was first past the post and demoted for causing interference. Both races were over 7 furlongs. He was still hard on the bridle at the furlong marker and had it won basically, and he's dropping back to 6 here. William Buick rides. I think I can see Buick sort of putting this to bed with a couple of furlongs to go, and Eye of Dubai should take a fair bit of beating. Gone up just £4 for the demoted victory. I think that's fair.
That was a good horse he pulled clear with as well. Brunel
Nation,
yeah. Richard Hughes, yeah, banging form.
Great stuff. Couple of Northern Raiders for the team.
Got to keep it local.
At Newmarket this weekend. It's a fascinating Kipco 2,000 Guineas. Perhaps we'll see a superstar in City of Troy.